So these are your candidates for Smith County Commissioner Precinct 3. And they drew the order of their opening statements. And gentlemen, you will each have 1 minute. And so Mr. McCarty is going to signal you. Mr. Phillips, you will go first, and then followed by Mr. Harrod, and then Mr. Smith will go last for opening statements. 1 minute, please.
Hello, I'm Terry Phillips. I'm Smith County Commissioner in Precinct 3. I was elected in 2009. I've been a resident of Smith County for 44 years, been married for 46 years, member of Rose Heights Church for 40 years here in Tyler. I would like to ask y'all to vote for me, and that can vote in my precinct. Election will be March the 5th, and I look forward to serving you.
Thank you.
Hello, good evening, everyone. My name is J. Scott Harrod. I was born and raised here in Smith County. I'm not your typical politician. I'm a rancher and a businessman, and I am a family man. I've got a beautiful wife of 23 years who serves the community very well in her occupation, and we've got 3 beautiful children. I am called to do this role for reasons that aren't just a desire or something I just wanted to do. I feel like I can sincerely help Smith County, and I can add on to a lot of the fiscal responsibility that has been shown in Precinct 3 and take it to a level in which we are able to accomplish a lot of things to benefit Smith County.
My name is Rusty Smith. I've been a Precinct 3 resident for 32 years. My wife and I moved to the city of Winona shortly after we got married. What I bring, I think, to the table for this role is a lot of good experience. I've got 14 years of experience in local government through the city of Winona, 3 years as alderman, 4 terms as mayor, 3 terms as alderman, 4 terms as mayor. So 14 years there. Through that, I learned a lot. It operates very similar to the Commissioner's Court, where you got city council and mayor, so you've got to learn to work together with the people that you serve with to get things accomplished. Been a leader in local business for 18 years. I'm an IT guy. I am a tech guy, so I do like a lot of the tech that some people don't. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I believe, Mr. Smith, that I will just let you go ahead and take this first question. And before I get into the questions, I'm going to tell you, gentlemen, some of them are difficult questions. Because it is a job interview, and we want to know what you know about these things, and we want to get an understanding about how you go about problem solving and how you analyze issues that will come before you. Because frankly, the decisions you make as a county commissioner go far beyond Precinct 3. Your vote may be the vote that decides to do something that's going to cost the county taxpayers a whole lot of money. And so, I think everybody is aware now that every member of the court matters to all of us in Smith County. So these questions are not meant to be mean-spirited. They are not meant to be gotcha questions. They are the kind of questions that I would ask if I was interviewing somebody and I was going to hire them, because that's what we're doing. People in Smith County are going to be hiring you guys to do a job that you said you wanted to do. So that's what these questions are about. So we'll start with you on this first one. You'll have 1 minute to answer this. Mr. Smith, if you were elected, what is the first thing you should do after reading any agenda item or any policy proposal on the Commissioner's Court agenda before you vote?
The first thing I want to do is make sure I'm familiar not only with the agenda item, but with the background. I'd reach out to the department heads or the county employees that would be involved or impacted by that decision, or the constituents that decision would impact. I'd want to solicit their feedback and see which way they feel that we should go with it. It's definitely there to serve the constituents of the precinct, not myself. And I want to make sure that we're advancing Smith County in a positive forward direction.
Okay. Mr. Herod, would you give a response, a 1-minute response, and say something different? If you have something to add, I'd like for you to lead with that rather than say, I agree with what he said. Okay?
Okay. So, not that I disagree with what he said, but different. The ability to research and dig into topics and look from the other side. I think that is a key component of any successful businessman, is to first follow their principles, understand where they stand on something, but see why is there opposition. There are many examples that have recently come up in propositions that passed unanimously across our state. People did not look and see why is there opposition and begin understanding and researching from their point of view. So we have a decision to make, and of course there's our gut instinct that aligns with our principles, but why are there people that differ from me, in my opinion, and understanding better what it is, where they're coming from?
Thank you. Mr. Phillips.
Well, I'm going to say exactly what Mr. Smith said. That's exactly what you should do, is get with your department heads and all those things. I'll not go over that again just to save time, but my number one thing that I do every night before Commissioner's Court and every morning before Commissioner's Court is I pray and I seek the Lord's wisdom that He would lead me and direct me, that I would make the right decisions benefiting the citizens of Smith County, along with the background work that Mr. Smith talked about.
Okay, thank you. So, Mr. Herod, you'll go first on this question, and you'll have, I guess we'll have about a minute to do this one. Briefly describe your management and leadership style.
So I've had the fortune of having several different positions throughout my career. I've reinvented myself being a banker for 10 years, being a owner of an athlete performance facility here in Tyler, APEC, for 2.5 years, and then obviously being a rancher and wholesaler of beef and a distributor, direct distributor for the farm and rancher. And in all that time, there's one common thread. My employees are all still good friends, people that I can tell you details about, and they celebrate my family as if they're their own. So inclusiveness is one of the key things in my management style, making people feel they're heard, making people feel they're understood, and helping people career path or what it is they want to accomplish.
Thank you. Mr. Phillips.
I'm not a know-it-all. I don't know everything. I trust that the department heads over a period of time, they have come to know me. They know what I expect. They know I ask tough questions, and they know that the things that I will be asking should be in line with what I'm believing, not what the other commissioners are believing. So it's not my way or the highway, but it is that the buck stops with me, and I do ask them tough questions, and they understand that, and expenditures and things like that, you know, I have to have an answer for those things because I answer to my constituents, not to any of them.
Mr. Smith.
Well, I've spent almost every day of my career for the last 18 years managing. What I tell my teams first and foremost is that I have an open door policy. And that's the same thing I can tell the constituents and the Smith County departments here. I'm available to talk to at any time. The other part is that as a manager, I tell my teams that I really work for you because my job is to give you the tools you need to succeed. If I give you the correct tools to succeed for you to get your job done, it makes my job easy and it makes me look good.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Phillips, we'll start with you on this next round of questions. And this will really just, I guess we'll go ahead a minute because all of you may have some other thoughts on this. Many in the state legislature continue to talk about the need to raise the gas and motor fuels tax. Do you support a local option gas tax increase that would go to roads? That's going to be a yes or no, and you can explain why. But I also would like for you gentlemen to all talk about one thing that you see needs to be improved in the overall transportation process in the state of Texas. I think all of you have had some kind of an experience with TxDOT and the Transportation Commission, or maybe the net RMA. So if there's some little something there that you want to say policy-wise, speak up, because there are plenty of county commissioners who go down to Austin and testify on these things, okay? So Mr. Phillips.
I'm gonna say, be a little dangerous here, but I would support a local option with the taxpayers approving it, as long as it was going toward the roads, and we guarantee it goes toward the roads, and then we don't start spending the money somewhere else or something. That's the only way I do that, to lessen the load on the taxpayer. And the other thing, probably with the net RMA and those kind of things, I don't agree with the toll roads. We pay too much money and just have to pay tax on top of other taxes. I would not, I don't support that, the toll road situation, and I'll leave it at that.
Mr. Herod, what about you? Local gas tax option, and what do you think about transportation in the state of Texas?
Well, if we're gonna do a gas tax, we need to do a battery tax. We need to do anyone uses the road tax. I am for fairness, and we obviously, as users of the roads, share that responsibility. And the road situation we find ourselves in now is because we underfunded and didn't make the improvements as we went. I'm for a pay-as-we-go system where we maintain our roads, and we listen to the citizens as those concerns come up. We utilize the resources in our county that are already out on those roads to let us know before problems become major problems. I believe one of the keys is for a gas tax, for every 3 million battery operated cars that are created, 3,000,001 gas cars is going to be created. So I'm all for people driving the vehicles in which they want and doing their duty, but let's do it responsibly and let's share that.
Thank you. Mr. Smith.
My initial reaction is no. I would not support that tax. My mind can be changed by doing more research on it. That's one thing I'll tell everybody. I'd never stand up here and give you a hard and fast no. It'll never happen. But my initial reaction on that is no. As far as net RMA and roads and traffic conditions throughout Texas in general, I think one of the areas we need to focus on is the mindset of our drivers. Texans love our trucks, right? We like our cars. We don't want to park the truck and get on the bus to come to town. But along with that is the fact that because we're so rural, it makes it difficult. You'd have to set up multiple stations throughout an area where people could come in and get on a bus. There's just not a lot of places to walk to, like for lunch at work or something like that.
Okay, thank you. We'll start with you, Mr. Smith, on this new question. Step us through the due diligence process that should be used before the County Commissioners Court purchases property. So, think about what you did on the Winona City Council. Think about what you would do, and just describe a due diligence process if you are a commissioner and you are faced with a proposition to purchase property.
Well, my first question would be, do we have a long-range plan that would outline what that property is going to be used for? There are always times where properties can become available that are at a price that's hard to pass up for potential future use. But you need to have a plan for what that property is going to be used for, not just going out buying property to have it on the books. The county is growing. And so I do think we need to research and look into property acquisitions. I know we've been doing some recently. but it's just got to be properly vetted, hopefully long-range plans or department report or something else that tells you why that's needed, not just on the whim of somebody wanting to do it.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Phillips?
Yes, you do need a long-range plan before you buy a piece of property. Obviously, you need to make sure that it's been funded. Once those things in place, the commissioner needs to read the contracts, look at the contract. We definitely need appraisals and some professional guidance in those things so you can make sure that you're not paying too much for a piece of property. But to go out and buy a piece of property with no intentions of a long-range plans of what you're going to do to that property, the county is not in the real estate business. We should not be doing that. It takes property off the tax rolls that obviously you don't collect taxes on. So that should not happen.
Thank you. Mr. Herrick?
Thank you. So real estate is a passion of mine, and real estate for a lot of communities, a lot of cities and counties has become part of their business and part of their strategy for long-term development, as well as an income source. So we need to be looking at our decisions carefully, seeking the guidance of professionals, more than one, whether it be real estate or whether it be repaving a road. I want to give multiple bids, multiple ideas. We need to be looking at that and determining, is this a good purchase, not overpaying? What is the long-term strategy for this piece of property? How will it benefit the taxpayers of Smith County? And if we can answer the questions of, yes, it's a benefit, yes, it's a good purchase, it's a good value, and yes, it makes sense from a contract perspective, then I'm not opposed to purchasing property that makes sense.
Okay, thank you. Okay, gentlemen, we're going to switch gears just a little bit. So the World Economic Forum has been in the news again. I hope you all know what that is. I hope you know what the implications are for our local communities and for the state of Texas. So my question is going to be, Mr. Herrick, what about the World Economic Forum's agenda troubles you the most, and what do you think a commissioner's court should be looking for if the commissioner's court believes that the World Economic Forum agenda is not right for the people of Smith County?
So the World Economic Forum scares me. First and foremost, I'm a rancher, and a lot of their belief system comes from a top-down, higher income, thought prevailing type leadership. I personally believe in working the other way, from the people up to the top, and the top works for the people. I guess I'm so against this that it's hard for me to even fathom an idea in which me being part of a group that would discuss or want to be involved, that I'm having a hard time with the second part of the question. But should it come before us and we start looking at some of the ideas that are being pushed forward in that, I would require a lot of support, a lot of encouragement and understanding of how anyone can do it from the other side.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Smith, same question. A minute.
Well, I will plead ignorance to the World Economic Forum.
Okay.
But I will tell you, my theory is, if you want to change in your government, the way to do that is locally, through school board, through city council, through county commissioners. That's where you have a better relationship with your representatives on a day-to-day basis. I think that's where you can affect the most change. And that's why I would encourage everybody to be able to tell you who their local school board representatives are, their local city council, and their county commission. If they don't have answers to that, I don't know how they can affect it.
Gotcha, thank you. Yeah, that is a lecture that I give people who Say, excuse me, Ms. Fleming, I know you're busy, but can you answer me why my property taxes are through the roof? So then I ask them, do you know who represents you on the school board, the city council, or the commissioner's court? And if they say no, I tell them they have homework to do, Mr. Smith, so thank you for making that point. Mr. Phillips, World Economic Forum.
They meet in Davos, or however you say that, and one of their leaders is Klaus Van, whatever, I even try to forget his name, but all these rich dudes up there that try to think, lead us into the doomsday of the world, but they want us to eat bugs. They want us all to drive electric cars. And I have an electric car. I really like it, but I don't want somebody forcing it or mandating it on us. And they want us all to force vaccines on us. They want to do all these other things. But, when it comes to that, some of those things, like the vaccines and these things that they're trying to force on it, Smith County should not be involved and go along with anything that they say, because I don't trust them guys for a half a second as far as I could throw them.
Thank you. So let's get, this is a part of, this, I guess you would say it's a plank of the World Economic Forum's plan for the globe, and it has to do with private property rights. And it's coming through the Biden administration. It started out being called the 30 by 30 program. And I'm going to ask you, first of all, if you've heard of it, and if you haven't, then I'm going to feel like I need to fill in some blanks for you so that we can get at the private property rights point that I would like for y'all to make, okay? So, Mr. Phillips, do you know what the 30 by 30? Do you know what the 30 by 30? Okay, all right. Do you, Mr. Harris?
I have become aware of the 30 by 30 by attending these meetings as well as the Lindell Republican Club meetings, and it is something that after learning, I am interested in learning more about, and it too is an item that scares me. Okay. And I would have a hard time supporting from limited knowledge now.
Okay, so could you, in just about 30 seconds, could you tell everybody what the basis of the 30 by 30 plan is? If you're not able to do that, just tell me, Ms. Fleming, I'm not doing that. Move on, and I will.
Well, I'm never somebody that's going to pretend to know something they don't.
Okay.
I've expressed about them that they want to take more of our land and make it theirs.
Okay, so
let's have a plan
just,
on the percentages.
Sure. Okay, you're in the right direction. So let's just take it from here. The Biden administration started out calling this thing a 30 by 30 plan, and now they call it because all of those rowdy conservative activists all over the place found out what they were doing, and they resisted. And so now they've changed the name to the America the Beautiful program. Doesn't that sound better? So what the federal government wants to do is to take 30% of private property across these United States and 30% of water rights and make them owned by the federal government. Now, this is not a conspiracy theory, although I will say to you gentlemen that all the conspiracy theories that we were talking about 25 years ago have all come true. So people better listen up. So now, let me ask you this. Do you have an idea of how the 30 by 30 plan comes down from the federal government to the local level? Do you know? Mr. Smith, just real quick, yes or no? Do you know?
No.
Okay. Mr. Harris?
Do I know how it's currently assigned or a theory?
No, how it would come down. No, they're actually doing it. How does it come down to the local level? Do you know? Okay.
No, ma'am, I don't.
Mr. Phillips, do you?
I would think through grants.
Yes. Okay. Through grants. So let me just underscore this for you guys. There are people out there in Smith County who know that the federal government is coming after our rights through federal grants. So I'm begging you to tell everybody you know that's in elected office that they need to pay attention to the fine print, because all money that comes from the federal government has strings. And we need people who are asking about the strings before they sign the dotted line. Can we just all agree on that right now? Is that a pretty safe thing to do?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you. We will move on from me leading the witnesses, but I'm telling you, that's just a really important issue to Grassroots folks. And so we want to make sure that we let y'all know about that. So now here's an easy one. Take about 30 seconds and we'll start with, I believe we'll start with Mr. Harrod this time. Mr. Harrod, could you describe what the county judge's role is in relationship to the commissioners on the commissioners court?
So the county judge is instrumental in keeping peace and illustrating professionalism and bringing, hopefully, 4 very strong-minded, people-focused individuals together to accomplish what's best for the community of Smith County, and doing so with ultimately the final vote, should there be a tie.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Smith, what about you?
The county commissioner's role is basically equivalent to a mayor in a municipality. So he's the one that would sign off on contractual documents that have, once they've been approved by the commissioner's court. He is the one that leads the meetings and can make the decisions there. He does it both, except in the event of a tie.
No, can't let y'all get away with that. The county judge can vote on every single issue before the court. So I know that, and I'm not trying to embarrass you, I'm just saying that's not true. That used to be one of those urban myths around here until Sharon Emmert became county commissioner back in the day. And so she started asking for the county judge to vote and have a record on issues. So anyway, continue.
Well, I appreciate you correcting me on that
Sure.
because I was not aware.
Yes.
Again, I'm going based on my history as mayor. So again, it's to lead the agenda, to lead the court, and try and get consensus to move things forward, like the CEO will come.
Okay, Mr. Phillips.
He does head the meetings up and keeps everything going there, and he does sign the contracts and everything for the county, but not before the commissioners approve them. So all that has to be approved through commissioners court. He should be a judge that has a long-range plan that he can, for the county and the roadmap for the get-together for the commissioners to come behind and support him in that manner.
Okay, thank you. So this is also a quick answer, a very quick answer, probably just maybe 5 seconds at the most. So, Mr. Smith, where does the county commissioners court get its authority, its statutory authority?
From the Constitution of the State of Texas and Texas statutes and the local government code.
Correct. Thank you for that. You would not believe how many people in Parker County that were running for county commissioner last cycle did not know the answer to that question. All right, Mr. Harrod, can you tell me something about the statutory authority of county commissioners that you believe the Commissioners Court of Smith County does very well, and something that you think they missed the boat on? No, 30 seconds. He can do that in 30 seconds.
God, 30 seconds. I believe our Commissioners Court represents its people and has the full intent of doing so, and uses persuasional power as needed. I believe we've got to do a better job of meeting with all the people and recognizing the needs of not just the squeakiest wheel, but all wheels of Smith County.
Okay, very good. Mr. Phillips, so what is it about your time in the commissioner's role do you believe is a statutory authority that needs to be expanded? Is there anything that you believe the state needs to give you more authority to do?
I don't think we need anything from the state. I wish they'd just stay out of everything, because the less power that you have for these elected officials, they just seem to run them up and go wild. But I thought you was talking about the statutory authority like roads and budgeting and all
Well,
that.
I do. So in the context of all those things, is there something that you believe the state could give you increased authority to do over what you already have the authority to do?
No, I just wish we could do better on the budgeting.
Okay. All right. That's very good, guys. You're very sharp. Very sharp tonight. Okay, so in 2003, the roadmap business plan was passed in order to set a standard for the Commissioners Court to meet. The business plan was reaffirmed by a vote of the court in 2005 and 2007. It is still printed in the budget document. What do you know about the plan, and what will your approach be to put a business plan into action? Mr. Harrod.
I am unaware of the roadmap plan. Certainly would be interested in learning more, and will do so at the appropriate time.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Phillips. Yours needs to be a little more nuanced. So the business plan's there, it's published in the budget document every single year. Is there something about that plan that you would like to do if you're reelected to put it into action?
Well, the roadmap to the new horizon is what it's called, I believe, and it's got 10 steps in it: accountability, technology, staffing, workforce, service process, intergovernment networking, long-range budgeting, task force, productivity, pay increases, contract service management. Within each one of those is a different thing. We need to be accountable. We need to, under the accountability, the technology, we need to use what technology that we can. Some of these others, the task force, long-range plan, productivity, and those things, we need to associate ourselves with any other purchasing things out there that we can come together and get collective purchasing where it's cheaper, and just work together on all those things.
Thank you. Mr. Smith, in a minute, would you tell us what your top 3 priorities are if the people hire you in the ballot box for Commissioner 3?
My top 3 priorities are budget, transparent budget, trying to lower the budget, looking at ways to do that. Number 2 is roads. I know we've got some projects out there, phases for different roads, but I also think we need to look at other ways we can save and try and maybe get to some roads that are outside of those plans that are in desperate need, whether it's due to weather or some other issue, because those things seem plenty open in Precinct 3. And I guess my last priority is just transparency to the general public about what we're doing. As I referenced earlier, an open door policy, that's always been me, and I would love to talk to anybody about anything that we've got going on.
Thank you, Mr. Harrod.
First priority is the safety of our citizens, law enforcement. We can talk budget, but if we're not safe and we can't live our lives and be free of worry of our hard worked for assets and our family aren't protected, then the best budget in the world doesn't matter. Roads, bridges, drainage, our infrastructure is the second priority. Again, if we're maintaining our safety, but we're dislocating our shoulders driving or tearing our vehicles out of alignment in the process of going to and from our daily responsibilities, then the best budget in the world doesn't matter. But we have to do that while maintaining a budget for the people of Smith County that they put in front of us. We've allowed them to vote and tell us what the priorities are and make it where we are exemplary in the state for the tax rate.
Okay. Mr. Phillips, if you're reelected, what will your top priorities be?
To make sure that we're transparent open and accountable to the people. I don't feel like we do a good enough job at that. Obviously, roads, I get all kinds of calls on roads, drainage issues and everything. And then the next obvious thing would be law enforcement. They have to be funded. You know, we have to fund them properly and everything, but I want to make sure that money is spent well and properly when we do fund them. So that would be my three.
Okay. So we've all talked about transparency. You know, transparency is one of those words that people use all the time. Sometimes I think they don't have the vaguest idea as to what transparency means. So let's dig into that a little bit. You've all mentioned transparency, so I want you to give me an example of where you believe Smith County needs to be better and more transparent so that people know what's going on. Mr. Harrod, just 30 seconds or less.
Sure, and I've already covered this in previous forums, so I believe we can do a better job of putting the numbers in front of the people before our meetings. Certainly, I'm not privy to some of the restrictions in doing so, but I do believe there are some things that we can put before the people and allow them to know in advance of the meeting so that they can have more informed questions and perhaps not even need to ask questions because they already know.
Okay, Mr. Smith. Define an example of where Smith County needs better transparency.
In some of the discussions that happened in Commissioner's Court today, I don't feel like enough questions are asked or things are brought out in the open. Recent ones, tax incremental financing for Precinct 3 in an area out there. There was a lot of topics to that to me that weren't discussed. You know, where's it come from, who gets it, who gets paid back, and it sometimes leads to a suspicion that maybe things were talked about outside of that meeting because everybody else seemed to have a better understanding.
Mr. Phillips.
We could definitely be more transparent in our budget packet, putting it out there before we meet on Tuesdays. And there's a reason that we can't do that as well as we'd like to right now. It's due to the Department of Justice suit that's going on with them saying we're not being ADA compliant. We're working on those things and we hope to get those fixed so we can prepare those and put them in the packet. But that's why it's not done. We need to do that. And we also need the openness to let people talk.
Thank you.
In Commissioner's Court.
Thank you, Mr. Phillips. Okay, so let's harken back to the days of COVID. So I want you to think about the way Smith County government handled the situation, and because that hits everybody no matter where you live. So tell me if there's anything about the existing state statutes that enable local government to dictate to their citizens in a way that you think is outside of constitutional rights. Mr. Harrod.
Is there a way that the state dictates COVID shot, for example, outside of their rights?
Well, okay. In the health and safety code, in the statutes of the state of Texas that give the parameters for how Commissioner's Court can and cannot operate. The health and safety code has got a lot of broad language in it as to how, under emergency situations, the Commissioner's Court can actually exceed the governor's executive order. They absolutely can. So the cat over in Tarrant County that was acting like a little dictator, guess what? He was given that power by the state of Texas. Still has it. They haven't fixed it. So I'm asking you specifically the way Smith County handled the whole COVID issue with businesses, etc. Is there anything that if you had been there during that time, talking to you two right now, would you have advocated for something differently? If not, it's fine to just go on and just say what your basic philosophy is about the role of government during an emergency.
Okay, so I think Smith County responded fairly well compared to the other 254 counties in Texas. I think it took us a moment to react in the way that our gut instinct was telling us to. And our Commissioners Court responded by allowing us, for the most part, our choice. And I'm all for people having their choice, but it should not be dictated to us what we put in our body. So anything beyond that, I don't know the statutes and beyond, but I think our county did well after taking a moment to assess the reality of it.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Smith?
I do think the current law, once an emergency is declared, gives too much authority to the governor and local governments in that situation. I think I would have liked personally to have seen more businesses be able to open. I know people that had to close their business because they weren't deemed critical, even though the liquor store down the street was. I wish it had been handled differently, but there's a flip side to that too. If the county had not done what they did during COVID, there's a lot of funding that's available now that Smith County is spending that we would not have been eligible for if we not declared the state that we were in.
And that was a great dot connector there, Mr. Smith. I have to tell you, it's always about the money. Mr. Phillips?
I would take the Ron DeSantis approach from Florida. Man, his attorney, his medical general there in the state of Florida has been real great about, advising people not to take the vaccine. It's dangerous. We shouldn't be doing it. We shouldn't be mandating people to wear a mask. I'm a constitutional conservative, so I'm going to stand behind that and let people take care of themselves. I don't think government needs to be telling them what to do. Early on in this COVID thing, when we first took it, we really didn't know what we were facing, but it didn't take me long to figure out when Northeast Texas Public Health District was coming in and spouting off all these lies basically about the vaccine and all these things. The doctors I was listening to, I didn't agree with any of it, and I would leave it at that.
Okay, thank you. Let's talk about public debt a moment. Mr. Phillips, we'll go with you first. What should every taxing entity do to properly manage public debt in the best interest of the people? 30 seconds.
First off, you need to make sure that the taxpayer is aware of what the total debt is. I think Smith County now is around 500 million or close thereabouts. You need to make sure they're aware of that. And when you're selling a bond or whatever, you don't just sell it as a $179 million bond. It's not that. Let's just be open and honest. It's $305 million. You need to count taxes and interest rates, because that's what the taxpayer bottom line is. They're going to be paying is interest on top of those bonds.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Harrod, what about properly managing public debt?
Yeah, I think there should be a huge disclaimer that says what the actual debt is, and letting the voters ultimately decide whether that debt is worthwhile to the long-term future of Smith County. But we need to have the real number put forward in bold letters, letting people know exactly what they're signing on to, because it's our children and their children that are being affected by the decisions today.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Smith.
The county commissioners do, I think it should be put out to public vote for bonds, right? So the public can vote on the debt that the county is going to incur. That's the right way to do it. But I think the county commissioner's responsibility is not just to look at the new debt, but the existing debt, to see how the new debt is going to flow in with that and make sure it fits within long-range budgeting forecasts and the ability to cover those debts and not be left out in the cold.
Okay, thank you. Okay, let's talk about tax increment reinvestment zones. Everybody's excited about that topic. In October 2023, the Commissioners Court approved a modified agreement for the downtown tax increment reinvestment zone which would increase the amount of tax subsidies to this area and extend the term to 2060. 2060. So, Mr. Phillips, would you go first and tell us in 30 seconds why you voted against this agreement?
Well, first off, it gives the city of Tyler $52 million of Smith County taxpayer dollars that we pay on our appraisal rate. $52 million. That is crazy. And second, it is on items basically that the city of Tyler is responsible for to begin with, not Smith County. And in the long run, I didn't see where Smith County was going to benefit nothing near $52 million for this project.
Thank you. Mr. Harrod, are you aware of this?
I am.
Okay, and so give us your approach to it. What would you have done, do you believe, based on what you know about it?
So we have some really good examples out there, even in Texas, where it's been done well. And this particular instance that we're speaking of, it was not brought to the court. It was not necessarily brought to the commissioners in advance with a well enough prepared package to really illustrate. And I would hit the timeout button and gone back to those consultants, the firm that brought it to us, and said, show me more. We're not voting on something we don't understand for our citizens.
Mr. Smith, what about you?
I think tax increment finance reinvestment zones have been successful elsewhere. I'm not sure about the term on that one, if I agree with the term that's said for that. But it's also spelling out the terms of that reinvestment zone on who gets the money initially, who gets paid back, what's the actual cost to your taxpayers in that, and make sure nobody's double dipping when it comes to getting your payback.
It was 100% that Smith County was not going to get.
Correct. That's right, Mr. Phillips. Okay, so let's talk about, let me dig just a little bit deeper on this. So can you, Mr. Smith, can you tell me some of the things that you would need to know about Smith County's finances and Smith County's budget before you could agree to a long-term diversion of tax dollars over to that zone? What are some of the basics in just about 30 seconds? Just tell me, what are some of the things that you would want to know first?
Potential benefits that can come back to the county, maybe not through taxes, but what that can do is bring in businesses. So there's potential investments there, new jobs that can come in, and property taxes that may come in. There's other alternatives that I think need to be investigated, not just the taxes themselves, to find out if it's actually a benefit to the county or not.
Okay. Mr. Harrod, I'll shape that question just a little differently. Are there some questions that occur to you? I assume you watched that on either live in court or you watched it in the archive video. Were there what question would you have asked if you'd been a commissioner? Give us an example of a question that you would have asked in that whole debate. Well, it really wasn't a debate, but in that whole agenda item, what would you have asked?
So in those roles in city government leadership and company leadership, we're looking at forecasting. And there's a lot of variables when we forecast. So I want to forecast what the future investment would return for Smith County. We're obviously taking some expenses and sheltering the city of Tyler. Why? And I want to know exactly what's the number that we're delaying, that we're holding back, the timeline, and then I want to know what we're really projecting for the future for the citizens of Smith County.
Okay, Mr. Phillips, after the whole thing was over, was there a question that you thought about that you would have liked to have asked if you could do a redo? I know you voted against it, but is there an additional question that these gentlemen might have missed?
No, I don't believe so, because the projected growth and everything was not there. The appraisal that you would look at, what the value appraised before and after, and then plus 2060, that answered it all for me.
Well, I'm gonna take a little liberty here, and I'm gonna tell y'all what your answer should have been. Okay? You should say to yourself, do I know how much the sheriff's department will cost in the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years? Because 2060 is a long time. I don't know about you, but I can't see it from here. Do we know what the jail will cost us in 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 years? Do we know that? No, we don't.
Nope.
Do we know what the roads will cost us? Do we know what our payroll burden will be? Do we know what health insurance for our employees will cost? See, gentlemen, if you don't know the answers to those questions, it seems a little premature to say, we're going to take all this growth and we're going to take it over here. Sorry, Craig, I didn't mean that. We're going to move it over here, and we're going to have these new unspecified projects over here that money's going to go for. See, I want the people to know that something was traded for that. Needs in the county may have to wait longer because this has been diverted. So do you get that? That one of the first things that you have to ask is, do I know how much all these other things that I am responsible for is going to cost me before I make this decision? And see, if y'all will just ask those kinds of questions, the people out there will just love you. And I guarantee you the people in those other departments, another thing I forgot, courts. Do we have any idea what our court system is going to cost us in 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 years? No. So if we don't know the answers to those questions, how can we go messing around, a crapshoot on what we're going to do with tax dollars in the future? Just asking. So if y'all would just kind of remember that, I gave you a little hint on how you can make the people out there love you. Okay. So now I think we are close to being done with y'all, and I bet you're ready. So anyway, you've all done very well. You're very thoughtful, a lot more thoughtful than a lot of candidates I've seen around the state. Just saying, Smith counties are better. Okay, so I'm going to ask you one more 30-second question. Mr. Smith, can you give me one idea in 30 seconds on how Smith County can be more citizen-friendly?
I would like to see Smith County Commissioners Court have after-hours meetings, not just at 9:30 in the morning, because people who work for a living can't make those. Right. They can watch them on Facebook, but that's different. So I think at least once a quarter, the Commissioners Court needs to start having an after-hours meeting.
Okay. Mr. Herod?
Yeah, so in my campaign, I've begun some Know Your Commissioner candidate forums where people can come and visit. I intend to keep that going should I be elected, and continue to have opportunities throughout Precinct 3 for people to be able to come express what's going on in their lives, what they need from us, the people that represent them, because that's exactly what we are, an arm for them. So I'm going to continue to keep that going. And then, as Rusty said, making it available through some town halls, etc.
Mr. Phillips.
After hours is a good thought. We've tried that before, not many people come. I'm willing to try that again. But I think more than that, we need to allow people their First Amendment right to voice their opinion, to redress their grievances before the governing board. Like the lady said in court last Tuesday, I mean, a lot of people work, they can't come and voice those concerns, and they need to be able to do it. So that would be a good idea, at least once a month.
Okay, thank you. All right, so now is your 2 minutes for you all to raise a new issue, to finish an answer on a question that you don't believe that you answered fully, or to rebut anything that was said that you didn't like. Okay, so Mr. Phillips, you go first.
Well, I think you hit everything pretty well with the questions. The things that I think a commissioner needs to look at is when you elect a commissioner, are they a constitutional conservative? Excuse me. Everybody claims to be a conservative until they're elected. Excuse me, but once they're elected, it seems like they just veer off and don't want to be held to the standards that they need to be held to. If you want a conservative that's going to not be afraid to ask the tough questions, whether it's to the sheriff, the DA, the county clerk, the district clerk, tax assessor, collector, you have that man right here that's going to do it in open public. It's not afraid to ask the tough decisions, questions, and make those decisions accordingly. I'm not beholden to anybody. I don't ask anybody for money for my campaign. So I'm not a country club commissioner. I'm not in the good old voice system, so to speak. So if you want the continued service and person that has been doing it, I would like to ask you to vote for me in the March 5th primary, Terry Phillips.
Thank you. Mr. Harrod, your 2 minutes.
So one of the keys in being a county commissioner is having relationships with department heads, other elected officials, and making our county better for all the citizens. And tonight we talked about a lot of great things, a lot of great questions, challenging. The relationships piece, that's a little tougher question to ask because of, it's a little opinionated in a lot of ways, but I'm running because I believe we need change, and that's kind of like an elephant in the room when you're sitting with the incumbent. And I feel like he and I share a lot of similar views. And it's a lot more difficult to get up here and say some things when you don't necessarily dislike the people you're sitting up here with. So the key to me is obviously there's got to be an immense amount of knowledge to do the job. And you've got to really dive in and do the research week after week. And that's why I really talk about I'm a start to finish, not an 8 to 5. But the relationships, having relationships with people that you disagree with and still being able to share the same conversations and desiring an outcome that best suits the citizens of Smith County, being able to accomplish the votes necessary. So having the no vote is wonderful in a lot of instances, but it's going to take 2 other votes to get it accomplished. And having that conversations and the preparation and the relationships to move that forward for the citizens of Smith County. I don't foresee myself being any wonderful commissioner that they look back in the times and say, oh, he was amazing. But they will say that guy worked with everyone and was available and was transparent.
Thank you. Mr. Smith.
So I've said it several times. I'm not up here running for this office because I think Smith County is in shambles. I'm proud of Smith County. I'm proud of what we've done, what we accomplished. And I'm going to be a part of what we accomplish next. And I'm not running against Terry Phillips because I don't like Terry, right? But I also don't think politics was meant to be a career. And I think you need to change. You need fresh eyes coming in to look at things. I bring experience with the codes that govern the commissioner. I think if you want to stay in politics, you should move up. Not stay in the same position, but move to a different position. So I'm running not to establish a legacy for Rusty, but because I want to serve the people of Smith County. And I believe that more and more people should be willing to serve. I love the fact that there's 3 of us up here for this primary. I've been part of elections before where I was the only candidate. And when you win, you sit there and you think, well, did I win because I'm the best candidate since I was the only one? So I love the competition. I think it's needed. I wish more people would get involved in local government, whether it's city council, school board, or county commissioners, and try and address the apathy that the general public has. They all sit back and it's not broke, don't fix it, and they just leave it alone. I think we need to find some way to address that and encourage more people to get up here and run against the incumbents in office.
Thank you. Okay, now it's time for your close, and you'll have a minute, and we're going to go in the reverse order of the opening statement. So, Mr. Smith, you have 1 minute to close the deal.
As I said, I bring to the table not just local government leadership, familiarity with the laws that are required for our state, but also 18 years of leadership with local business. I've been trained in management by a Fortune 300 company. I've been taught how to review and read budgets, manage multi-million-dollar budgets over numerous years. I also spent 12 years as a volunteer firefighter. Prior to the taxing districts coming in, it was all volunteer donation dollars that we ran on back then. And there was times you had to dig in your own pocket to put fuel in the trucks so you could go fight a fire. So it taught you to be very conservative, very fiscally responsible, and to do what you needed, not necessarily what you wanted. I'm hoping I can put my experience and my leadership to work for Smith County, and I hope you will vote for me on March 5th.
Thank you. Mr. Phillips, you go second.
I'm a can-to-can't type person. I think that I'm not a go-along, get-along type person. Just to say that, I mean, it's okay to differ. I believe it's okay to differ with people. It's healthy. It's healthy that I got two people running against me to help keep me on my toes and answerable to you, the citizens. And so I'm very frugal with the taxpayers' money. I question everything that comes along, and I know that you could ask some of these people out here and they'd tell you that. So, I mean, but to me, it's not okay to get along with somebody so good that it blinds your judgment, clouds your judgment when you're making budget decisions for the county. And I think that's what we have. I'll just be honest with you right now. And when you elect a conservative, I think they ought to be conservative. We would solve some of these election problems right now if some of these people that were on Commissioner's Court right now that say they're conservative, be conservative.
Thank you. Mr. Harris.
I want to thank you all for being here tonight. It's very important that we get more and more people in Smith County involved and attending meetings like this and learning and sharing the word about what politics is about and what they can do to impact the future of Smith County. What I haven't got to speak much about tonight is, first and foremost, my decisions come from my faith. And as I said before, I didn't set out to do this job 10 years ago. I felt a calling that this was a particular time in which I could come in and help. My particular skill set matched what the county needs right now. I want to carry on fiscal responsibility. I want to bridge Smith County to the future. And we are a large county, 24 out of 254, and we're growing. Most counties in Texas are dying, and we're growing, and we need an infrastructure to support that and make this one of the best places to live.
Thank you, gentlemen. You have done very well, and you've been statesmanlike on the stage. We like to see that. Thank you very much.
Political advertising paid for by Grassroots America, We the People PAC.